Nicholas Carter thought he had everything: wealth, power, and a future carved in glass towers high above the city. But when his young wife Emma told him she was pregnant, fear strangled him more than love did. He wasn't ready. Or maybe he just didn't care enough. One night, without warning, Nicholas walked out of their home, leaving her clutching her belly and her tears. Emma never called, never begged. She simply disappeared from his glittering world. Years passed. Nicholas rose higher, celebrated in business magazines, untouchable in boardrooms. But on an ordinary afternoon, fate struck. Across the street, he froze. A little boy with his same sharp jawline and piercing blue eyes was laughing, holding the hand of a woman he once knew better than himself. The world stopped. The child he had denied was standing in front of him, and this time, there was no escape. Nicholas Carter had built his empire on discipline and control. Every deal, every calculated risk, every perfectly timed decision made him the millionaire CEO everyone envied. But for all his brilliance in boardrooms, when it came to love and responsibility, Nicholas was a coward. Emma had been the opposite of everything Nicholas thought he wanted: soft-spoken yet strong. With a smile that melted away the walls he had built around himself, he married her young, convinced that she was a fleeting distraction he could somehow fit into his busy schedule. But when Emma's hands trembled as she showed him the test, her voice breaking as she whispered, "Nicholas, we're going to have a baby," his world cracked. Instead of joy, he felt panic. The idea of fatherhood didn't fit into his vision. His empire was still growing, his name still climbing. A wife was one thing, but a child, that was permanence. That was roots, ties, expectations he wasn't ready to shoulder. Emma's eyes searched his face that night, begging silently for reassurance. But all Nicholas offered was silence. Days turned into weeks, and the distance between them stretched like a rope about to snap. Finally, one night, the rope did snap. Nicholas came home late, the city lights casting cold shadows across their apartment. Emma was curled up on the couch, her belly barely beginning to show. She looked up, her face pale from exhaustion but glowing faintly with a hope she refused to let go of. "I cooked dinner," she said softly, as if ordinary words could fix the growing storm between them. "I already ate," Nicholas muttered, tugging off his tie. His voice was flat, distant. Emma's hands trembled as she touched her belly. "Do you even care anymore?" she asked, her voice breaking. "This is your child too, Nicholas." The silence that followed was louder than any scream. Nicholas glanced at her, but his gaze didn't linger. He picked up his briefcase and whispered the words that would haunt her forever. "I'm not ready for this, Emma." Her breath hitched. "You're not ready to be a father. I'm not ready for you. For this life," he snapped, harsher than he intended. He wanted to take it back, but he didn't. Instead, he turned toward the door. Emma rose to her feet, her eyes wide with disbelief. "So you're just going to leave us?" Nicholas froze at the word "us," but he didn't turn around. His pride, his fear, his ambition chained him in place. He opened the door, and with one last glance at the life he was abandoning, he walked away. That night, Emma stood in their silent apartment, one hand cradling her belly, the other wiping away the tears she swore would never fall again. She didn't chase him, she didn't beg, she simply whispered to the tiny heartbeat within her, "I'll protect you, even if he won't." Months passed, and Emma disappeared from Nicholas's glittering world. She didn't attend the charity galas anymore. She stopped answering his calls, though in truth, he barely made any. She was gone, and Nicholas convinced himself that it was for the best. He buried himself in work, signing deals, collecting properties, surrounding himself with success that couldn't fill the hollow ache in his chest. But Emma, she survived. Pregnancy was not easy. She worked through her exhaustion, took jobs no one else wanted, and leaned on no one. Nights were the hardest, lonely hours when her body ached, and she wished for someone to hold her hand through the pain. But she kept her promise to her child. She endured. And when the day finally came, after hours of labor and tears, Emma held a baby boy in her arms. He had Nicholas's jawline, Nicholas's eyes, Nicholas's stubborn expression even as a newborn. Her heart broke and healed all at once. She kissed his forehead and whispered, "You'll never need him, because you'll have me." Years turned like pages in a book. Nicholas's empire grew, and his face graced magazine covers, hailed as one of the most powerful CEOs in the country. Yet every now and then, when he passed a playground or heard a child's laughter, something twisted in his chest. He told himself it was nothing. He had made his choice, but fate has a cruel way of circling back. It was a rainy afternoon. When Nicholas stepped out of his car, adjusting his coat, he was late for a meeting, but something made him pause. Across the street, he heard laughter, bright, carefree, and so achingly familiar. He turned his head. And then he saw him. A little boy, no more than 5, with dark tousled hair and piercing blue eyes, the exact shade Nicholas saw every morning in the mirror. The boy's laughter echoed as he ran toward a woman holding an umbrella, Emma. Her face was thinner, her shoulders tired, but her eyes, those same eyes, met his across the street. In her arms was the child he had once denied. Nicholas's heart stopped, and for the first time in his life, the man who thought he had everything felt utterly powerless. Nicholas Carter stood frozen on the sidewalk, his heart thundering in his chest. The little boy clung to Emma's hand, smiling up at her with the trust only a child could give. And though the years had changed her, Nicholas knew Emma instantly. The woman he had abandoned was right in front of him, and beside her was the child he could never deny. The rain blurred his vision, but Nicholas couldn't move, couldn't breathe. He wanted to call out her name, but guilt strangled his voice. What right do I have? He thought bitterly. I left her. I left them. Emma's eyes met his for only a second before she turned sharply, tugging her son closer. Her shoulders stiffened. Her steps quickened. She was running away, unknowingly this time. She wasn't running for herself. She was protecting her child. Nicholas felt the ground slip beneath him. Without thinking, he rushed across the street, ignoring the horns blaring as cars skidded past. Emma. His voice cracked, echoing louder than he expected. She stopped. Just for a moment. Then, slowly, she turned. Her face was pale, her lips pressed tight, but her eyes, those stormy, wounded eyes, burned with years of unspoken pain. Nicholas's breath caught. Emma, I don't. Her voice was sharp, trembling. Don't you dare. The boy looked between them, confusion clouding his bright blue eyes. He tugged at her hand. Mama, who is he? Emma's chest rose and fell, her grip tightening on her son. She bent down slightly, her voice soft. No one, sweetheart, just no one. Nicholas flinched as if her words were a knife. No one. That's what he had made himself. Emma, please, Nicholas said, his tone desperate. At least, tell me his name. Her jaw clenched. She should have walked away. She wanted to, but something in his voice, something raw, almost broken, made her pause. Finally, she whispered, Ethan. The boy tilted his head, smiling shyly. Hi, he said innocently. Nicholas's throat tightened. His own son, his own flesh and blood, was standing in front of him. Unaware of the years of abandonment that shadowed his existence, he wanted to kneel down, to touch him, to hold him, but Emma's protective stance kept him at bay. You don't get to stand here and pretend you care. Emma spat, her voice low but laced with fire. You left when I needed you most. You left when he needed you most. Don't you dare come back now and expect to be welcomed. Nicholas swallowed hard, guilt pressing down on him like a mountain. I was a fool. I was scared. But Emma, I see him, I see me in him, and I can't just walk away again. Her laugh was bitter, sharp. Walk away. That's all you ever did. You don't get to rewrite the past because guilt finally caught up with you. Ethan tugged her sleeve again. Mama, who is he? Emma's eyes filled with tears. She wanted to protect her son from the truth, to shield him from the man who had broken her heart. But looking into Nicholas's pleading eyes, she felt the weight of a decision she wasn't ready to make. He's someone from a long time ago, she murmured, forcing a smile for Ethan. Come on, we're late. And just like that, she turned away, walking into the rain, her son at her side. Nicholas stood rooted to the spot, his hands trembling, his chest hollow. For the first time in years, all the boardroom victories, the luxury, the power, it all meant nothing. He had just seen what truly mattered, and he had already lost it once. That night, Nicholas couldn't sleep. He replayed the scene over and over, Emma's tears, Ethan's eyes, the word no one echoing in his head like a curse. He poured himself a drink, but even the burn of whiskey couldn't drown the guilt. He saw Ethan's face everywhere in the mirror. In old photographs, in every reflection of himself. He saw Emma's resilience in the way she held their child's hand. He realized then that Emma hadn't just survived. Without him, she had built a world where he didn't exist, and the thought of being erased from his son's life tore him apart. Nicholas made a decision. The next day, instead of diving into endless meetings, he instructed his driver to take him to the neighborhood where he had seen them. He didn't know what he would say or do, but he knew one thing: he couldn't let this chance slip away. Hours later, he spotted them, Emma walking Ethan home from school, her hand gently resting on his small backpack. They were laughing, a sight so simple, so ordinary, yet it felt like a dagger to Nicholas's chest. That should have been him. He should have been walking beside them. Summoning his courage, he stepped out of the car. Emma, he called softly. She turned. her smile fading the moment she saw him. "Not again," she hissed. "Haven't you done enough?" "I just want to talk," Nicholas said, his voice steady but pleading. He looked at Ethan, who was watching curiously, and then back at Emma. "Please, one conversation, that's all I ask." Emma hesitated, torn between fury and the faintest trace of compassion. Finally, she sighed. 5 minutes, that's all. Nicholas's heart leaped. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a chance. As they sat at a small cafe nearby, Emma kept Ethan close, her hand never leaving his shoulder. Nicholas studied the boy, his smile, his mannerisms, the way he swung his legs under the chair. Every detail was like a mirror. "Emma," Nicholas began, his voice low, "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I don't deserve to sit here, but I need you to know I regret it. Every single day, walking out, it was the worst decision of my life." Emma's eyes hardened. "Do you think regret erases the nights I cried alone? Do you think regret makes up for the years Ethan grew up without a father?" Nicholas's throat tightened. "No, but maybe I can make the years ahead different." She laughed bitterly. "You think you can just walk back in and be a father? It's not that simple." Nicholas looked at Ethan, who was humming to himself, completely unaware of the storm between his parents. His chest ached. "Maybe not, but I want to try." Emma stared at him, torn between anger and the faintest flicker of hope. She had built walls so high, but Nicholas's sincerity cracked them just slightly. "Trying won't fix the past," she whispered. "No," Nicholas said firmly, his eyes wet, "but it might save the future." Days turned into weeks after that cafe meeting. Nicholas had expected Emma to shut him out forever, but instead, she surprised him. She didn't vanish. She didn't run. She allowed him to see Ethan once in a while, though always under her watchful eyes. For Nicholas, those stolen moments were both a blessing and a torment. Watching Ethan draw superheroes on napkins, hearing his laughter, walking him to the park, was like stepping into a life Nicholas had never known he wanted until now. Every time Ethan smiled, Nicholas's chest ached with guilt. "This is what I missed. This is what I threw away." But Emma was a different storm. She was kind for Ethan's sake, but guarded. Her words were clipped, her eyes cold, her walls higher than ever. Every time Nicholas tried to talk to her, she shut him down. One evening, after walking Ethan home, Nicholas lingered at the door. "Emma," he said softly, "please, just tell me, is there any way back for me? For us?" She froze, her hand on the doorknob. "Back." Her laugh was sharp, bitter. "There is no going back, Nicholas. You don't undo abandonment. You don't erase years with apologies." "I know," Nicholas admitted, his voice cracked, raw with emotion, "but I'm not asking to erase the past. I'm asking for a chance to build something new. Not for me, for Ethan. He deserves a father." Emma turned to face him, her eyes glistening, though she refused to let the tears fall. "And where were you when he deserved a father the most? When he cried, as a baby? When he asked why other kids had dads? When I had to work double shifts just to feed him? Where were you then, Nicholas?" The words struck harder than any boardroom defeat. Nicholas lowered his head. "I was a coward, and I'll regret it until the day I die." For the first time, Emma saw something different in him, not arrogance, not pride, but a man stripped of his armor. Vulnerable, broken. She swallowed hard. "I can't forgive you, that isn't. I'm not asking for forgiveness," Nicholas whispered. "I'm asking for a chance to be the man I should have been years ago. Not for you, for him." The turning point came one stormy night. Ethan had fallen sick, nothing serious, but the fever scared Emma. She rushed him to the hospital, her hands trembling as she held him close. Nicholas, who had been nearby on business, dropped everything when he heard. He arrived at the hospital breathless, his suit soaked from the rain. When he saw Ethan lying on the bed, pale and weak, Nicholas's heart shattered. He rushed to his side, kneeling down, gripping his small hand. "Hey, champ," Nicholas whispered, his voice breaking. "I'm here. Daddy's here." Emma stiffened at the word, ready to correct him, but Ethan's tiny lips curved into a weak smile. "Daddy," he murmured, his voice hoarse. Tears streamed down Nicholas's face. "Yes, Ethan. I'm your dad, and I'm never leaving again. I promise." Emma's breath caught. She turned away, her chest aching with emotions she had buried for so long. Watching Nicholas, she saw not the cold, selfish man who once abandoned her, but a father desperate to hold on to the child he almost lost. When the doctor reassured them it was only a fever, relief washed over all three. Nicholas stayed the whole night, refusing to leave Ethan's side. He read stories, sang softly, and held his son's hand until he finally drifted into peaceful sleep. Emma watched from the corner, her eyes wet. Something inside her shifted. Days later, Emma finally spoke the words she had been holding back for years. "You've changed," she admitted quietly. As they walked Ethan home from school, Nicholas glanced at her, hope flickering in his eyes. "I had to. Losing him was the biggest mistake of my life, and I don't want to make it again." Emma bit her lip, her walls trembling. "I don't know if I can ever love you the way I once did." Nicholas stopped, turning to her. "Then don't love me for me, love me for Ethan. Give me the chance to be his father, even if I'm nothing else to you." Emma searched his face, and for the first time in years, she didn't see the man who walked away. She saw the man who stayed, who fought, who cried, who was finally willing to give up everything for his family. Her eyes softened. Maybe we can try. For Ethan." Nicholas's breath caught. He didn't smile, didn't celebrate. He simply nodded, knowing this was only the beginning. Trust wasn't given, it was earned, and he would spend the rest of his life earning it. Weeks turned into months. Slowly, Emma's icy walls began to melt. Nicholas was there for school plays, for homework, for bedtime stories. He was there for scraped knees and birthday cakes. He didn't just throw money at problems, he gave time, effort, and love. One quiet evening, as the three of them sat together on the couch, Ethan looked up from his coloring book. His innocent eyes sparkled as he turned to Nicholas. "Daddy," he said softly, his voice full of certainty. This time, Nicholas froze. His throat closed, his eyes burned. He pulled Ethan into his arms, hugging him tightly. "Yes, son," he whispered, his voice breaking. "Daddy's here, and he always will be." Emma watched them, tears sliding down her cheeks. And for the first time in years, she let herself believe in second chances. If this story touched your heart, don't forget there's always more waiting. Life gives second chances, but not everyone is brave enough to take them. Nicholas almost lost everything: his wife, his son, his family, but love found its way back. Do you believe people like Nicholas deserve forgiveness? Or once trust is broken, should it stay broken forever? Tell us in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you want more stories full of emotions, heartbreak, and powerful comebacks, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss the next chapter. Every story here is about love, pain, and fate's surprising turns. And, who knows, the next one might just be even closer to your heart. Stay tuned, because tomorrow, another Millionaire CEO's secret will be revealed.